Welcome, friends. I'm going to show you how I did the hole in the PFM40 stove. Someone asked me how to do it so that you can burn this kind of camping gas, or the butane, the tall canisters. Now, this was my sacrificial aluminium or aluminum one that I used because I thought aluminium is going to be so much easier to cut through, and I thought steel is going to be tough. I don't have a Dremel. And someone said, well, can you just use a drill? So I'm going to go ahead and cut a hole for this connector to go through on my steel PFM40 so that you can see how it's done. You don't really need much tools because the way I did it with the aluminium one was with a step bit like this with an electric drill. And then I used a round file, or a keyhole file as I call it, a round file and a flat file to deburr any rough edges. So this worked out really well, but I was thinking I may not need such a big hole cut into the PFM40, and if steel is going to be so much harder to cut, which I think it might be, then why don't I do a different style of hole? So when I looked at this connector, I thought, well, maybe it can go through vertically like this, and then I'll need one hole shaped like this connector. So I'm going to show you on this one that I had from a friend who wants me to modify his. So I'll show you on this nice immaculate new one that's for a friend exactly what I mean. And I've decided to use the far left on the back hole, the far left one, this one, because I'm right-handed. So I'm right-handed. I want access to the gas canister to turn it up or down with my right hand. So I'd prefer the hose to come out onto the right side. So I'll show you how I'm going to cut this. Basically, use the stepper drill first. Well, this is my plan anyway. We don't know if it's going to succeed. Let me know if you think this will work. First of all, I'm going to enlarge this to the 2 centimeters diameter hole. So this will be 2 centimeters. 2 centimeter hole. And then because of these little extensions on the side going vertically, I need to come up and cut with the round file 2 little ears like this, kind of. So my plan is to cut the 2 centimeter diameter hole, then come in this corner with the round file and cut these little ears. And then, because there's a little extension there for the threads coming out, I'll probably need to use the flat file. This flat file will then fit in the hole, and I'll be able to file away a little bit here for where the threads come out. So the hole should end up looking a bit like this. That is the plan. So we'll do this with my PFM40, and we'll come back and let you know how it works. Let me know in the comments if you think this is a good idea or not, but I think this is better than connecting these 2 holes together. And the reason we're doing this, by the way, and the alternative, is the hose is not that flexible. If the hose comes out too high up, it lifts the stove. It lifts the stove up, and then it's not burning. Actually, I'll show you the other way. Here we go. There's the flame top. So the top where the flame is. So if it's too high, it's going to lift up on an odd angle. So it needs to be fairly flat, close to the ground. That's why I'm using these holes closer to the base. Now, the alternative you might think about is if you want to do it and you only have a round file, you could possibly extend with a round file down here so that just the cable, just the hose comes through and is held at a lower angle. The reason I'm not going to do that is because this would make it a bit unstable in terms of it could get compressed and it might bend the metal in when you use it in a pack or anything, carrying it around. So if you cut down here, that might work. Let me know if you think that's a better idea, but I'm going to go ahead tomorrow and cut a hole shaped like this and see how that works. So the way I made the hole for the pipe or hose from the gas to the burner is I enlarged this hole on the end of the 3 to 2 centimeters using a stepper bit. It wasn't too hard using a stepper bit, so I don't have a Dremel and I don't need to buy one, because now I found I can just mark where I'm going to do it vertically. Those 2 lugs on the side of the burner connection, I've marked them here, and now I'm just filing. So just a matter of filing out to get the right size hole to get that hose connector through. You see, once you cut these 2 little ears, you just can come in with the flat file to smooth out this and make sure that the gas burner connector will go straight through. And the neat thing about the gas burner is it can come up through the bottom of this. It actually fits through the bottom, so you can come up without removing the pot stand arms here. You can bring the burner up and put the hose through all in one go. So that's how I was able to cut the hole and tidy this up for the gas burner, and it took all of maybe an hour at the most to do this conversion. Well, it's early morning. Look at the beautiful rice fields here. The roosters are crowing, so it's time for breakfast. So let's use our modified PFM40 with gas and see how we can cook breakfast easily. First of all, we'll start the burner. Let's make some coffee. So here's 2 cups of water. We'll see how quickly this boils. While the water's heating, we'll grind our coffee beans. It's always good to get whole beans, grind them so they're freshly ground beans when you make your coffee every day. It lasts much longer as a whole bean than it does as a ground. Once you ground it, it's only really good for a day. It's even better to use it right away. So I'm grinding some really good beans from high up in the mountains. I should say higher up in the mountains, because we're already over 1,000 feet, 1,000 meters I mean. And so higher up in the mountains, the better the coffee. Here is the freshly ground coffee. Today we're going to use not an AeroPress. Today we're going to use our French press. So I've set the grinder for French press, which is slightly coarser than for the AeroPress. These are medium roast, which is why there's some parchment in there. The papery stuff that you see is the silver skin from the coffee bean. And it doesn't mean it's bad or anything, it just means it's medium roasted instead of dark roasted, which some people like. We don't like that one. It does get kind of hot with this hole in the front of the stove. You could get some sticks and slide them through these D-rings, but for some reason my stove is a bit tight holding that. So when the water boils, to be safe, I'm going to turn the gas off and take the water out carefully. So it's already got a few bubbles started and it's already steaming, so I could turn the heat up and we'll get this going faster. But because I was simmering before, when I did a boil test in a previous video, it took 6.5 minutes to boil 2 cups of water. But I had the burner set on very low. This time I can turn it up and you can see just in this short time it's almost boiling now. I don't know how long this was, 2 or 3 minutes already, but not very long. This gas burner is really working out well. With it turned up high, you can see the difference in the boil time. It's almost there. I'd say that's probably about 80 Celsius right now. We're at high elevation, so our water actually boils at 95 Celsius. French press is a very good way to make coffee if you follow James Hoffman's recipe, or just use some common sense and use the right grind size, which is a fairly, like I said, a fairly coarse grind, and give it 4 or 5 minutes to steep before you put the plunger down. When you put the plunger down, this part, do it very, very slowly and only do it to about halfway so that you don't disturb the fine grounds at the bottom. Anyway, in this short time the water is starting to bubble. I'd say it's going to boil in a few seconds. Look at that. So we're almost ready to make our coffee. Today we're using the propane gas. The first burn with this, I used the tall butane canister. I'm showing you that this connector can go straight onto the top of a propane canister. These common ones for camping. The adapter that comes with it is for butane gas canisters. So there it is, the water's boiling. So now I'm going to shut off the gas. I'm going to use some gloves for this so I don't burn myself. So now we're going to carefully make our coffee. Once you've added the water, give it a little stir. Give those grounds a stir. I like to use a chopstick, but I don't have my chopstick here. So that's good. And I'm going to top it up with a little bit more water. That should be good. And we take the plunger and just leave it at the top like that. I just bring it down a little bit, and now we wait 4 to 5 minutes. So while this is waiting, we can be cooking some more stuff. How about some spam and eggs? So we'll start the stove again. Turn it down low. And we're going to use a carbon steel pan. So we're going to use this skillet, 8-inch carbon steel skillet, just like chefs use, but it's slightly smaller. We're going to put it on top. You see how this fits nicely on top of the burner. we'll get this little spatula ready. This one's a folding spatula. And we'll take some butter to grease the pan. We don't need much actually, because it's going to be plenty of grease with the Spam. And that's very hot already. The skillet's just sitting on top. So I'm going to try and turn this down a bit. And then we'll add some Spam. Spam is okay once it's fried. It tastes so much better when you lightly fry it. It doesn't taste great when it's cold out of the can, but if you fry it, it basically becomes as tasty as bacon. So we'll give that a couple of minutes in the pan, and then we'll do some eggs. Get our plate ready. Now the coffee's been sitting there for about 2 minutes. We'll give it another couple of minutes. Once the Spam is done, it'll be time to turn the French press plunger down and have our coffee. That Spam should be ready by now. Oh yeah. That's the way it should be, really tasty. Just lightly browned. We'll give it a minute on this side. And you can see the amount of heat, even at a low simmer, is very high on this stove. I'm going to try and turn it down a little bit more. Because for eggs, when we cook the eggs, we don't want the pan too hot. So now with the French press, I'm going to slowly let the plunger come down halfway. And then I like this coffee poured right away. Some people say wait. I say after the 4 minutes and plunging, you can actually pour it. So that's a beautiful cup of Arabica coffee grown in these mountains around us here. And the Spam can be put out on a plate now. We'll put the coffee over here. I'm going to try and turn the flame down even more. You can barely hear it, because it's time to do some eggs. This is when we might need some more butter. So we'll add a little bit of butter. add the eggs. The beauty of these carbon steel pans is they're basically non-stick. This surface, even though it looks like it's a Teflon coating, it's not Teflon, it's a nitrided surface, which means it's, as David Canterbury calls it on his carbon steel pans, it's called case hardened, which is basically nitrided. It means the steel is hardened, the carbon steel is hardened, so it basically becomes non-stick. So we've already made our coffee, we've already fried up some Spam, and we've got some beautiful eggs cooking here. I'll show you that the pan is basically non-stick. Look at that. Even if it does stick a little bit, you just scrape it, and you can use metal tools on these kind of carbon steel. It doesn't hurt it at all, and you can just basically scrape it off without worrying about any harmful chemicals. You can see the egg is now not sticking. Yeah, no sticking at all. Slides around the pan as easy as that. Now we might break the eggs because we like them over hard here. So I'm going to try and turn these. However, it might get a bit messy at this point. But I'll show you the steel pan again. Carbon steel. It's like non-stick but better. There's no harmful chemicals. How are we going to turn these successfully? No, eggs are broken. That's okay. We don't mind that. We're not experts on turning eggs, but they'll still be tasty. There. Almost ready. Can turn the heat off. You can let it finish cooking on residual heat so we can save some gas. Carbon steel holds a lot. It's basically similar to cast iron. It's quite heavy. Not as heavy as cast iron. So this is still packable. But yeah, look at that. Perfectly done eggs. All done with the gas burning PFM40. So this is breakfast done in about 10-15 minutes. We've made coffee, Spam and eggs on the gas conversion of the PFM40 from David Canterbury's Pathfinder outfit, the Self-Reliance Outfitters, and I'd say that's a big success. Let's go ahead and taste that and see how it tastes. Well, the coffee is perfect. Spam, especially the crispy part here, it's going to be awesome. The flavor is so good once you've cooked it. I'd call that a success. Very tasty, simple breakfast that you can cook when you're camping, when you're outdoors. That's a big winner for the PFM40 conversion. And don't forget to like and subscribe.